children about these issues, because these issues can be really dark and it's hard to hear, but these are the most important ones that everyone needs to know about. And it's not about things that men have done wrong, it's about things that we've just let go unchecked throughout society. So I wouldn't say, for me personally, that I have a negative view, more of a negative view on men. I think now more or less, it's important just to include them in the dialogue and make sure that they're also the ones being educated, not just women and not just young girls.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I'd say kind of the exact same thing. I think it's on one of these slides where Nicholas Kristof talks about how if only women are talking about these issues, then we're not moving forward. So the whole point for this is to educate everybody. Because even if when you watch the long documentary, you see that some of the brothels are owned by women. So women are doing this to women. And some of the women who go through the brothel process, like the one who ended up going back in one of the stories, she ends up becoming a head in the brothel. So she's bringing other girls in. So if she's not educated, then the cycle is going to continue. If men are not educated, the cycle is going to continue. So I wouldn't say it had a negative effect towards the way I view men. It just made me realize that everybody needs to be included in the conversation.
Hannah's actually going to do a mini presentation after this, about 10 things you can do in 5 minutes. 5 things you can do in 10 minutes. Wow. And also, if you guys read the book, throughout the book, he talks about different organizations you can get involved in. But at the end of the book, in the appendix, there's a whole list of organizations you can get involved in, and not only just donate money, but actually do something too.
We have talked a lot about the idea of culture and what stems from culture and what stems from something else. But this is just my response. This is not an official response, but at least for me, I don't think culture's an explanation anymore, because our cultures are so intertwined, or they can be at least. We can reach every part of the globe now with technology or with resources and people. So what I would say is, but I also don't think it's inherently bad people either. I think it's the idea that women are dispensable in some parts of the world. The idea that they're not equal to men. It's just the idea that women don't deserve an education. In some parts of the world, that's not even a strange thing. A girl will drop out of school far before a young boy will. And that's how it works. So culture, yes, but I think at this point, we can change, not that we have to change culture, but we can change education. We can reach all parts of the globe. So kind of what I'm trying to say is culture is a tricky one. But I think it's just that's how it's been.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit, it could be stemming from culture, but it's also a lot of societal structures and the things that we allow universally to go unchecked in society. It's not just that certain people are doing this, it's more that kind of everyone is still allowing these societal injustices to happen. In terms of that, Kristen talked a little bit about the fact that sex trafficking is extremely prevalent in the United States, and not a lot of people realize that. It's much more prevalent than I think any of us have any idea. And that's an issue, and we also have to realize that some of the things that are happening in other countries are happening here, but we just aren't paying as much attention. Like rape and domestic violence are so common, and it's kind of similar to in other countries. They're just allowed to go unchecked for too long.
Another thing I was going to say, one of the statistics is that 1 in 3 women in like the third world or developing country will be like raped or sexually assaulted throughout our lifetime. And then there's the statistic that I'm sure we've all heard: 1 in 4 college women will be sexually assaulted or raped. And I mean, when you see the story of the girl who had such a hard time telling her parents, such a hard time telling her community, there's a stigma here too. I mean, how have we reacted this year? How have we reacted in the past? How have you reacted to your friends? Are we supportive enough of rape victims? Are we supportive enough of women in general? I don't think we are, but I mean, I don't think it's as bad as it might be elsewhere. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good enough, I guess. So that's one area that it's been very obvious to me, because it's only on college it's 1 in 4. I'm like, if we're the first world, if we're supposed to know what's going on, how do we only, because it only 1 more? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. So. Is there anyone else? Otherwise we can wrap it up with our 5 things to do in 10 minutes. But thank you for such great questions. We were worried, so we were like very pleasantly surprised. So thank you so much for great discussion.
Okay, so now I'm Hannah, and now I'm going to talk about some of the underlying questions that we've been coming back to throughout the semester, and like, what does this mean for us, and why is this important for us to talk about, and why is this important for us to be involved and to educate ourselves in such an issue like this? So throughout the semester, we've always come back to those questions, and after some reflection, we've come up with some explanation of, well, she's not good with technology. We don't let her do anything, nothing. So we've come up We've come up with some ideas about what this means for us and why this is important for us. But like Kristen said, this is an official statement, and so we really want to invite you to take the time to sit and reflect on your own experiences and then your own life to understand and to create a personal significance for your own self. So. Something that was helpful for us to consider when we were thinking about why this is important and like what does this have to do with us? We're thousands of miles away in America. How are these women overseas? How are they affecting our lives? So what we did to try to understand and address the problems that were raised by half the sky is to imagine ourselves and our loved ones in the position of these women who are experiencing abuse and oppression throughout the world. So if you think about it, would you want yourself or your sister, your mother, your aunt, your cousins, your friends, your roommates, whoever else to experience the abuse and the degradation and oppression that these women all over the world face? And for each of us, we answered no. Or what we asked is, like, would we want them to experience that, and would we want someone who had the ability and who had the resources to stand up and to speak out for us? And for that, we answered yes, because if someone has the ability to do so, we would hope that they would be willing to stand up for us. And this kind of goes back to the question of cultural relativism. And people will ask and say, that's just how things are over there. It's not our place here in America to judge what they do or to tell them that it's right or it's wrong. But as a result of that, we would say that because of these cultural practices, that people are being abused, oppressed, degraded, and they're being forced to do things against their will. And that no longer is an issue of cultural practices, it's an issue of human rights violations. So that's why we believe it's important for others to understand what's happening and to become involved and to work to prevent things like this from happening. A second reason why we came up with the importance for an issue like this comes from the name of the movement itself, which is Half the Sky, and it comes from this Chinese proverb. So when you think about it, nearly half of the people in the world are female. And in many countries, and especially in the countries and the women that we saw in the movie, they are responsible for the majority of the day-to-day duties and responsibilities that take place during the house. They have to have the kids, they raise them, they educate them, they have to take care of the home. Many of them have part or full-time jobs, and then on top of that, they have to make sure that the needs of themselves and their families, and even in the community, are being met. So when you stop and reflect on how much women have to do and how little they're valued in some of these places, it really gives meaning to the idea of how women literally hold up half the sky to keep the communities, to keep the family structure and everything going. And that kind of ties back into the idea that if half of the world is made up of women and many of these women are being oppressed and are not given the opportunity to lead happy and successful lives, or not given the opportunity to receive a decent education, how can we move forward if all of these women are being held back? Because if all of these women are able to utilize their potential, then think about how much further we could be in society. And another major theme that we thought was very prevalent is the idea of turning their oppression into opportunity. And we thought that the mission and the goal of Half the Sky is very fitting with the type of education we receive here at Xavier. And I know many of you all the time hear about our mission statement and the gifts of our Ignatian heritage, but we think that a lot of those gifts are very much connected with our ability to help others, and that they very much relate to what we should do in terms of issues like this that are brought up in Half the Sky. And it really helps us utilize our ability to really become men and women for others. So the first of these is reflection, and by taking the time to understand where we are in the world and how our affections or how our actions affect others, we can understand the resources and tools that we have to better help everyone else. And the second is solidarity. So through solidarity, we recognize the connection that we share with these women and these people and communities throughout the world, and that helps us understand how the struggle of these women that we're hearing about is also the struggle that we have here in America. And then the last one that we thought was very fitting was service. And so through direct service and action, we can actively contribute to positive change to really create and improve the situation of millions of women all over the world. So something that we didn't want you guys to walk away with is the idea that this issue is too big or that it's too dark and that it's just absolutely nothing can be done by one person, because that's definitely not the case. So what we really want you guys to come away with is that where we are right now here at Xavier, and with the education and the opportunity we have to hear and learn about these issues, that we are the people with the resources and the abilities to spread the word and to help improve the lives of these women and improve the conditions in a lot of these countries. So that comes back to the question, what does this have to do with me, and what can I do to help? So we created a list of 5 things that you all can do in 10 minutes in order to start creating positive change. And the very first thing you can and should do is to start following the movement on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, all forms of social media, because when you do this, you can stay updated on the current events and all of the information and important news regarding the event and the movement. And also, it will provide you with a lot more information about how you can become directly involved in promoting change. And the second thing you can do is read the book, because what we saw here is only 40 minutes of what everyone's been saying, the 4-hour-long documentary, the 300-page book. So by reading this, there are so many more stories of women who have gone through tremendous struggle and who have been oppressed and have just had to overcome so many obstacles. And there are also so many stories of them being able to do so and being able to work past the struggle, which helps it helps promote the idea that change is possible and that it's just not some huge issue that we don't know where to begin with. So the third thing you can do is look into sponsoring a girl or a woman, and organizations such as World Vision and Women for Women International provide outlets to do so. And by sponsoring a woman or girl, you can improve their chances of finding opportunities for them to create a better life for themselves. It creates a support system, and when you feel like you have that support system, people they start to believe in themselves, and they start to believe that they can change and they can get themselves out of a bad situation. The fourth thing you can do is explore microfinance, which is what Josephine talked a little bit about. And so through microfinance, you can help support women who they create businesses, and it provides them with an alternative opportunity to create employment and to make a living for themselves without having to turn to prostitution or commercial sex and all of that. And then the fifth thing is to join the CARE Action Network and to research various organizations and initiatives that work to support issues such as these. But the most important thing that you can do is to educate yourself and educate yourself on the issue and the movement in order to better understand and learn about ways that you can contribute to effective and real change. And also, don't be afraid to share what you've learned with others, because the best thing you can do is spread the word and to help keep the movement growing. And we all have a voice, and we're not silenced by our society and where we are in life. So if we use our voice, we can use it to speak for others who can't. And that's the most important thing I think we all can do for other women. So thank you again very much for taking the time to share this with us and letting us share our experience with you, because it's been a fantastic semester so far. And we're happy to have the opportunity to share that with everyone else. So if you want to stick around, we are doing the raffle now, and I think Josephine or Tamika, are you taking over? Thank you, guys.